Black Ops 3 Zombies, or more specifically in this case, the Giant, has been out for more than 6 months. Actually, I believe it's 7, and there are still Easter eggs that are unsolved within this game. Now, that really isn't very surprising, since there are Easter eggs in World at War, Black Ops 1, and even Black Ops 2 that we haven't solved yet. But Easter eggs that we have found, for example, the ciphers in the Giant, 3 of those ciphers still have not been solved until now. Recently, we have had a brand new cipher that we have had in the Giant for over 7 months that no one has been able to crack. It is now being revealed, and it reveals a very important message. Now, it's not the longest message, but if you break this down and try to link it back to what we know, this, I believe, is very important to what the future holds for our Call of Duty Zombies storyline. Now, before I get into what this cipher says, if I could encourage you guys throughout watching the video, if you do enjoy it at any point, a like rating would mean an awful lot to me. Anyway, here we go. So I believe we have 3 or now 2 unsolved ciphers left in the Giant. The ones that we've solved so far seem to be very important to our zombie storyline and don't actually give us information about the Giant itself, but gives us information about DLC 2, 3, and 4. In the Giant, we have found ciphers to do with Der Eisendrache. We also found ciphers to do with Zetsuba no Shima, where they spoke about the cells below the waves, which is where we found Takeo. It spoke about the Frozen one, which is a reference to Der Eisendrache, and now we have found another one, which I believe is to do with DLC 4. Now remember, there are 2 more, which could be to do with DLC 3, or anything else. But these ciphers in the Giant seem very important, and if we could get the other 2 solved, that would be awesome. But this is what our new cipher in the Giant says. When finished, we will return to the house and the infinite. That's it. Now, although you may not think it's much, that is very important to our zombie storyline, and in fact, I think has given us a clue to what could be taking place in DLC 4. So anyway, here we go, let's break it down. Who exactly is writing this? When finished, we will return to the house and the infinite. We've heard the house many times in Zombies before. We know Takeo knows about this house, Richtofen knows about this house, obviously Maxis. We believe this house that is being spoken about is the one we can find within the Infection multiplayer map, floating outside of the map in the infinite, in the void, in the middle of nowhere. On this rock, there is a house that involves these 2 children, Sam and Eddie. We first saw these children in the Origins cutscene, where it ended with them being called down to the basement by Maxis.
They knew that Samantha would keep them safe. Forever.
Getting everything wrong. I told you before, their eyes should be blue.
It's my turn, Eddie. I can do whatever I want.
But you don't even know how to play properly. Girls don't know enough about zombies.
What's the choice of it, children? Make sure the windows are locked before you come down to the basement.
We'd better do what your dad says. I didn't even get my turn.
Tomorrow, Eddie. You get to make the rules. I promise. Come on, Fluffy.
I wish the heroes in our stories were real, Sam.
I know what you mean. But we will make everything okay. My dad says he has a plan.
Now, although it's still a big mystery as to what's really taking place within the Origins ending cutscene, we have had some really good ciphers and hints, and just more clues as to what is going on. For example, in the Giant radios, we found out that Maxis lost these children. We found out that he is on a mission to find them, he doesn't know where they are, but in Zetsuba no Shima, he is now mentioning that the children have been brought back to him. He talks about a strange, dark figure knocking at the door of this house. Now, I do want to talk more about that in another video. In the Giant, Maxis mentions the children being missing, but in these new radios for Zetsuba no Shima, he says, I find myself reflecting on the memories I am no longer sure on my own. Beyond the window, I saw a wasteland stretching as far as the eye could see. I saw a scourge visited up on the earth. I saw the children, withered before my eyes. That was before he came. Samantha has been returned to me once more, as have you, Edward. As have you. We find out Samantha and Edward have been returned to Maxis, but he says at the end, I hope we can fix all of this mess we have created, but I am sorry, Edward, I have withheld certain truths from you. It seems like our goal since the start of this, since the Giant, was to find these children and make sure they are safe. And if we go over to Richtofen's note, it says the children will be safe in the house. Now going back to our new cipher, it says, when finished, we will will return to the house and the Infinite. Now, I would presume this is Maxis writing this. It very well could be Richtofen. It very well could be someone else. But this cipher's telling us when finished, we will return. Meaning whoever's writing this has been to this house before. And the only person I know that has been to this house is Maxis. It very well could be Richtofen. It mentions when finished, when this is all done, when this whole plan is completed, we will return to the house. If this is Maxis writing this, he's also talking about someone else. He says we. And we know Richtofen is the one complying with Maxis' rules, going along with what Maxis says. Maxis has written up this whole plan for Richtofen to follow, and as he says in the Zetsuba no Shima messages, he basically says, Edward, you have done me good, you have been following my instructions, you have collected these souls of our 4 characters. Obviously we still have Nikolai to go, and Max is basically telling Edward that he's done very good, but at the end of that he says, I'm sorry, I must confess something to you. What that is, we don't know. Is it possible Maxis has betrayed Richtofen? We know from a cipher in Zetsuba no Shima that M is keeping a very important secret from us. We don't exactly know who M is, but I have my suspicions that M could be about Maxis because of other links to that as well. I'm not going to go too much into that anyway, but Maxis is definitely keeping something from us. And at the end of all this, we are going to return to the house. Whether this is Maxis and Edward, whether this is the whole crew, that's unclear. But it also says and the Infinite. Now, what exactly is the Infinite? The definition for it is limitless or endless in space, something that's impossible to measure or calculate. Now, if we go back to the Infection multiplayer map, we can see the house is floating in the Infinite. It's floating in the endless space, in the middle of nowhere, in the void. So simply, this cipher could be saying we are returning to this house that is in the Infinite. This house that we see here, we are returning to this house. We are going back to it. The Infinite maybe could be a place. We also have the Chronorium, which is a new word that's come into our zombie storyline. People are not sure if that's a place. It also could be the book that we see in Der Eis and Drache. Maybe it's some type of creature. And although, yes, that is the simple way you could say, this basically is just telling us that this house is in the Infinite and we are going to return there. I think there is a lot more to that, simply because of the way they've worded it. They don't say the house is in the Infinite. They say they are returning to the house and the Infinite. So there could be something more behind that, which is very interesting. But if you summarize all this up, the big point is it says when finished. Our finale, our final 2 zombies is in DLC 4. We still know in DLC 3, which is our next map, we have to collect Nikolai's soul. But when this is all finished, when we have all 4 of our characters' souls, which will be in DLC 4, then in DLC 4, Maxis' plan can finally come to an end. His plan will be completed, his plan will be finished, and only then, in DLC 4, will we return to the house and the Infinite. I think just like our other ciphers in the Giant that were giving us hints to DLCs, we've had DLC 1, 2, and 3. We've had clues to all of them in the Giant, but the only one that we haven't had clues to is DLC 4, and this cipher could be giving us a clue to that. In DLC 4, we are finally going to return to the house and finally going to return to the Infinite. In Richtofen's note, you will notice that he only has plans for DLC 1, 2, and 3. He only has the 4 locations of the Giant, Der Eis and Drache, Pompeii or Zetsuba no Shima, and Stalingrad, but he doesn't have a 4th DLC location. Is that because Richtofen himself doesn't know where he is going? Maxis says he is keeping a secret from him, and in DLC 4, we could see this big secret that Maxis is keeping from us. And another reason as to why DLC 4 isn't on Richtofen's list, as to why we don't have a location, is because there are no coordinates for this place. There isn't a specific location. Why? It's because the house we are returning to is in the Infinite. It is in space. The location of DLC 4 is changing, therefore it doesn't have a specific coordinate that Richtofen can actually put down on his notes. We still have 2 more unsolved ciphers in the Giant, so if we get them, who knows what they could be telling us. It could be more information about DLC 4, but this one, although it doesn't seem like much, when finished, we will return to the house and the Infinite is very important to our zombie storyline, and in fact, is talking about DLC 4. Honestly, I cannot wait because DLC 4 for me, I think is going to be amazing. It's the conclusion of our whole zombie storyline, yet it's going to lead off onto a 1,000 new paths for us to speculate and theorize around for the years to come. So there we go, guys. Hopefully you have enjoyed the video. It's been a long one, but if it's helped you out in any way, I don't know why it would, but I really try my best for you guys. A like rating would mean an awful lot. Thank you so much for almost 200,000 subscribers. Any support would be awesome. Thank you so much. I've been BlackOpsAmazing, guys, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.
I do not like fact that spiders seem drawn toward Nikolai.